Hi everyone, my name is Matt Irons. Thank you so much for clicking and watching this video. The goal of this video is just to help you understand your health insurance options and your really the individual health insurance landscape. You're going to be getting a lot of quotes when you're doing your research. I think it's super important just to understand what's out in front of you and know what each bucket is. So when you get all the quotes in and you're doing your research, you know where to put everything. So with that said, the individual health insurance world is really broken up into two different camps. And that is the healthcare reform plans, also known as marketplace plans, Obamacare plans, ACA plans, minimum essential coverage plans, etc. Those are all done through healthcare.gov. So those are those health reform plans. The other camp of coverage is what's called private insurance or private health plans. That's everything that's not health reform. So if we're going to break those two camps apart, let's look at the first one, healthcare reform plans. So few of the pros and cons of these. The positives with health reform plans is it covers anyone with any sort of pre-existing condition. So there's no underwriting. So they won't look at your health history. It doesn't matter. They're going to accept you, no questions asked. Also, they're not going to limit the coverage in any way relating to that pre-existing condition. So for anyone who may suffer from like diabetes, or maybe you are in remission from cancer, or whatever the case might be, good news is you have options. You do have health insurance programs that you can look at and see which one will be the best for you in that circumstance. Second, you could possibly get what's called a tax credit subsidy. And what a tax credit subsidy is money from the government, and they pay money directly to the health insurance company. And what it does is it will pay a percentage or a portion of your health insurance premiums, and possibly even deductibles or cost sharing involved, co-pays, things like that, depending on what your income is. So it's a sliding scale. So depending on what your income is, you may qualify for those tax credit subsidies, allowing you to have some affordable health insurance options through healthcare.gov, through those health reform plans. Now, some of the negatives or the cons with health reform plans. So depending on the date, you may not be eligible to apply. You need to have what's called a qualifying life event. So in the health reform world, or in the health reform camp of coverage, there's really two segments in the calendar year. There's what's called open enrollment, and that usually is in November, and that goes from November till typically December 15th, so about a 45-day window. And during that open enrollment period, anybody can sign up during that time, and those plans then would be effective January 1st of that following year. Then the other area of the calendar year is what's called a special enrollment period. And what a special enrollment period is you can apply for health insurance, but again, you need to have what's called a qualifying life event. So not everybody can sign up during that time, just those who have those qualifying life events. So puts a little yellow tape there in terms of who can or cannot get coverage during that time. Also, in terms of a negative, because the insurance companies that provide the health reform plans cannot underwrite, the only way that they can maintain profitability is to have larger premiums and larger deductibles. Again, unless you qualify for those subsidies. But that's kind of where the controversy is with the health reform programs. And that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. Those who don't qualify for those subsidies, unfortunately, they can see some pretty high premiums and some pretty high deductibles as well. God forbid if they actually have to use their health plan. So that is somewhat of a negative with the health reform plans there. Third, many health reform plans utilize what's called HMOs, health maintenance organizations, and that's like the networks they use. And traditionally, those HMOs may be a little bit more limited in terms of accessibility to providers. So your doctor or the hospital right down the street may or may not be included in your network. And if it's not included in the network, then the health insurance plan will not cover you in the event of that circumstance or claim if you utilize either that doctor or that hospital. So that's health reform plans. That's camp number one. Camp number two, again, is doing what's called private health plans. Now, private health plans, not to confuse things even further, but private health plans has a little bit of a subdivide. And within the private camp of coverage, again, that's everything that's outside of health reform, can be broken into two different segments. And that first one is short-term plans. And short-term plans are just in what that label signifies is it's only good for a short term amount of time. And depending on the state, that could be anywhere between 3 to 6 months. And then the other subdivide in terms of private health plans would be like month to month plans. And what that means is you can have coverage for as long as you want. You're just paying month to month for those. You can, of course, cancel at any point in time you like, but there's no expiration date for the coverage. So again, as long as you're making those monthly premiums, you have health insurance. So that's kind of the two subdivides within the private health plan world. Now, taking a look at short-term plans, again, there's some pros and cons of those. The pros with short-term plans is they are affordable. The reason why they're affordable is, again, the insurance company is only guaranteeing coverage for up to a certain duration of time. So again, coverage is only good for 3 to 6 months. Now, with that said, there are carriers that do some have renewal features that allow you to automatically renew for another set term, and that's good. So sometimes some carriers, and again, depending on your state, you may have longer durations of time. So that could be a possibility with the short-term plans. So again, the positive of the short terms is they are affordable solution. The negatives or the cons with short-term plans, again, it is only good for 3 to 6 months, again, depending on your state, and again, depending if there is a renewal feature, but they do have an expiration date. So you'll need to be sure you're keeping on top of your health plan. You don't want to think you have health coverage, but your coverage expired, and then you're left with nothing. God forbid something happens to you. You thought you had coverage, but it expired a month ago or something like that. So it just requires you to be on top of things a little bit more with those programs. And then the other negative would be is they do not cover pre-existing conditions at all. At least typically, traditionally, most short-term plans do not cover pre-existing conditions. So for me, that's a little scary. So a lot of times I see this just as helping folks with their health insurance plans. Let's say someone has asthma, and for the most part, they are they have it controlled and it's no problem, and they go forward and they get like some sort of short-term plan. Well, like month 2 or 3 in the policy, they end up having some sort of severe asthma attack, and they go to the hospital. And yes, they're approved for coverage and they have health insurance through a short-term carrier. But as it turns out, what will happen is a health insurance carrier will do what's called post-underwriting. They'll look at their health history, and then they'll find out, oh, this person had a pre-existing history of asthma, and it could turn out that they may not cover that claim for that date of service. So sometimes it could be a little scary in the midst of those types of things. And again, also because of the pre-existing condition clause for those plans again are only good for between 3 to 6 months. Again, don't know if they have a renewal feature or not, but if they don't, it could be in a circumstance you could be healthy, and then in month 5 of the policy, something happens to you, and it could be a severe condition, like God forbid cancer or something like that, and then your policy expires a month later. Well, now you have a pretty significant pre-existing condition. That plan expired. Now you can't renew again, and now you have this gap of coverage where you don't have anything for the next 6 months, and you have to wait through the next open enrollment period for health reform plans to get coverage to give you the care you need. God forbid, again, thinking worst case scenarios, cancer or something like that. You just want to make sure you're protected. So again, those are some pros and cons with the short-term plans. Now, looking at those month-to-month plans, with the cons with month-to-month plans on that, there is a little more stricter underwriting with that. So unlike the short-term policies, the short-term programs are usually pretty easy to get on board with one of those plans. There's usually maybe 3 to 4 underwriting questions with those, but again, they don't cover any pre-existing conditions, so it's easy to get on board with those. But again, those short-term plans, they may not cover. They're not going to cover you if you had something in your past. With a month-to-month plan, kind of the cons of this is it's a little harder to get on board with the plans because they are going to have a little stricter underwriting, a little more of a process with that. So there is a little bigger hurdle with that one. And also, typically, the month-to-month plans are a little bit more in premium. But again, if we're comparing that to health reform programs, it could be drastically less expensive, again, compared to those health reform plans. So those are some of the cons with the month-to-month plans. Now, the positives with the month-to-month programs is this. They will cover pre-existing conditions if you're approved for the plan. And so during that underwriting process, if they know about that health condition, that pre-existing condition, and they know about it and they are approved, those programs will cover those pre-existing conditions. So that's a huge benefit there. Plus, the month-to-month plans typically have more robust benefits, so they could be paying actual benefits for doctor visits, prescriptions, labs, and more for those types of things. Also, a positive with the month-to-month plans is they don't expire. So again, as long as you keep making those monthly premiums, you have coverage, and it won't terminate on you after so many months. So you don't have to have that on top of mind all the time. Hey, do I still have health insurance? Did I expire last month? So you just know you have peace of mind knowing you have coverage as long as you're paying that monthly premium. Also, with the pros, positive with the month-to-month program is a strong PPO network, and it's a nationwide PPO network as well. So those month-to-month plans typically have a better access to doctors. You can see who you want to see on that. So that's a major pro or positive with those month-to-month plans. So that is really kind of the layout of health insurance in the individual arena of health insurance plans. Again, 2 camps of coverage. You have your healthcare reform programs, and then you have your private health insurance plans. And again, those private plans have a couple different subdivides. If you have more questions about your health insurance, I'd love to answer those questions for you and help any way that I can. Go ahead and schedule a no-hassle phone meeting with me, and you can easily do this online. Just go to callmattirons.com and schedule a call with me, and we can go through all your options, see what's going to be the best fit for you, and most of all, I can just help you navigate what those options will be, just to give you some peace of mind knowing what's out there. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. Again, if you have any questions, schedule a call with me. I'd love to help any way that I can. Again, my name is Matt Irons, and have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.